Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to a very important and historical moment from the European Chess Club Cup 2024 that's going on now in Serbia. We have here now the amazing and important game between Gukesh against Rauf Mamedov, in which Gukesh is on his path to become the world's youngest grandmaster of all time to reach 2800 rating points, which is really crazy so far. This record is held by Alireza Firouzja. Alireza Firouzja became the world's youngest grandmaster to reach this rating at the age of 18 years, 5 months and only 3 days. Now Gukesh could break in this tournament his record for about 2 weeks, which is, I think, huge accomplishment. We know also that Gukesh is a world championship challenger. He could also in this year become maybe the world's youngest world champion of all time. So far Gukesh played two, I would say, easy games against lower rated opponents. He got already 2.4 rating points. So now against Rauf Mamedov, he could get, I've calculated at home in this FIDE calculator, that he could get about 3 and something points if he wins his game against Rauf Mamedov. So look at this, he needs only 3.6 points in order to reach this epic rating. So let's see now what happened. Did Gukesh win this game, and did also he became now the world's youngest grandmaster of all times to reach this epic rating of 2,800 rating points. So let's see now what happened with the white pieces. Gukesh opened with move d4. Rauf Mamedov's response was d5. We have c4, the queen's gambit, and now already a huge surprise in the opening stage. We have the queen's gambit accepted, and this queen's gambit accepted becomes now, I think, a very common and popular response to d4 in top grandmaster level. I've seen Nodibek Abdusattorov playing this opening very often, also Alireza Praggnanandhaa. So basically what you can get, of course, out of this opening is, I think, a pretty equalish game without any complications, and many times in these types of positions then white is left with an isolated d pawn. So I think pretty solid opening choice here for Rauf Mamedov. We have now knight to f3, knight to f6. We have now the normal variation after move e3, e6, bishop to c4, and now comes the standard idea of blacks here in this queen's gambit accepted here, putting more pressure against this bishop, and then of course hitting the flanks with the move c5. So here calcing, normal stuff by Gukesh. We have c5, and now Gukesh makes the first important choice in his game, bishop to e2. There are of course options. You can also play queen to e2, you can play of course a4, you can also play b3. Pretty standard ideas. D takes c5 in some lines is working, so these are, I think, the standard moves here for white. So Gukesh plays bishop to e2, c takes d4, and now knight takes d4. Gukesh doesn't want to have this isolated d pawn that you get usually in the queen's gambit accepted, but then afterwards I would say knight to c3, bishop to g5, d5 in some lines are the breakthrough ideas to get rid of your isolated d pawn. Okay, after knight to d4, what should you do? e5 wouldn't be so dangerous, because then after knight to f3, queen takes d1, rook to d1, white occupies this file, has of course an attack against this pawn, will eventually get the pieces much faster into the game than black. So that's why Rauf Mamedov kept it calm, played now a solid bishop to e7, knight to d2, castling, and now b3, preparing of course the fianchetto of the Darsko bishop. b5, now comes this idea, bishop to b7. Both players have now powerful bishops that are crossing all over the board, so these are the main weapons now in white and black's position. We have now rook to c1, queen to d7, and now knight to f3, bishop to d6, and now h3. Good and standard, I would say, also idea by white, not allowing some stuff like knight to g4 and then knight to e5. White would love maybe, black would love maybe to play knight to g4, knight to e5, then getting this bishop active, then putting more pressure here, getting rid of also one important defender in front of white's king. So that's why great move here, I would say, by Gukesh. Really nice prophylactic move. h3, rook to d8, targeting the queen indirectly, of course, here now by black, and Gukesh covers with bishop to d3, queen to e7, and now already a huge surprise here by Gukesh. And with this move, I think Gukesh showed that he's going for a win here, that he's not trying to play solid positional chess. He plays a very aggressive e4. Great stuff, which could be really risky here for black to take. Rauf Mamedov didn't dare to take. He played here the move knight from b to d7. But let's see options. What happens if you play, for instance, bishop to e4? Here, my Stockfish engine at home says that white has a great attack here. Black didn't make a mistake by taking a pawn here, but then after something like rook to e1, you have to step back. Then we look at this play, knight to e5. You're targeting here the g7 weakens, then queen to f6, knight to g4. Look at this. White would keep the attacking flow. You're trying to play something like this, king to f1. You get all of this tactical mess here. This knight is protected. You're trying maybe something like bishop to a3. So this is just one line that I'm showing you. I'm not sure how deep Gukesh has calculated. Probably he has somewhere prepared this e5 line, this e4 line, pardon me. Now after knight to e5, maybe you can play f6, bishop to e7. Look at this. White is always on the attacking side. That's I think the issue that bothered here Rauf Mamedov. So that's why after move e4, Rauf Mamedov played a calm knight from b to d7, developed first of all his pieces, and then maybe he can expect to take out this pawn on e4. So that's why Gukesh now connects finally the queen to the pawn, knight to h5. Here Rauf Mamedov is trying to get the knight on a beautiful square, and now g3. Great again defensive move here by Gukesh. Bishop to c5, e5. Good move again by White, occupying the spaces. Now at least some kind of an advantage here for White. It's not a spectacular position. White, of course, doesn't have so much to do here, but at least something now. There is also obviously a weak square in Black's camp. Obviously, we'll want to somehow fix something around the square d6. Bishop to b6, bishop to e4, knight to c5, and now bishop takes b7, queen to b7. So, okay. In this sequence, Gukesh got rid of this very unpleasant bishop on b7, but of course with this g3 move, with also a weak square on e4, there are still some problems here to cover your light square. So again, I would say maybe slightly better position for White. Nothing dramatic is going on the board. We have now rook to e1, rook to d7, and now queen to e3. Gukesh found now a beautiful idea to attack somehow Black's position. Now the huge tactical threat is of course the move g4. The knight doesn't have so many good squares, so if you try something like g6 in this position, this wasn't played in the game, then look at this, then you get really a very interesting line. G4, you have to step back, queen to h6, knight to g5, and after a couple more moves the game could be over here for Black. So very amazing threat here by Gukesh with the move queen to e3. So the best way here to protect this position is actually to go into a wild line with the move f5, which Rauf Mamedov, unfortunately for him, didn't see. But we have to mention already here, both players I think used very too much time in the opening stage. Here Rauf Mamedov was already low on clock. Also Gukesh played this first moves really in a slow way. So now after move f5 that here Rauf Mamedov should have played, then probably White would go with b4, then knight to a4, you have to step back, and now Black would have this beautiful counter-attack idea with the move f4. That's now the beautiful choice. Now there is no threat of g4, and now you play rook to f7, and White is maybe slightly better because of the gained pawn, but Black has an initiative here. Black has great chances, has a powerful piece here, this dark square bishop. The knight will eventually get back into the game, so at least you're doing something. So that's why, as I said, f5 the only way here to proceed. Here something like e takes f6, if you play in this imaginary line, again it's not so dangerous, because in this line knight to e6, knight to d3 could happen, and you could lose the exchange. So Gukesh has to worry also about the d3 square, so that's why this whole concept with e takes f6 en passant here is not working. So f5, as we mentioned, the only defensive move here for Rauf Mamedov. But after queen to e3, Rauf Mamedov played rook from a to d8, and this is not good, because here Gukesh had immediately the chance to play rook to d1. As we mentioned in this previous line, you have to first of all cover your d3 square, and then if something like, I don't know, let's see, just a bad move, which Black probably would not play, but I wanted to show you the real threat, g4, knight to f4, you take, and now the d3 square is covered. But here again, if you try f5, the line that previously worked for Black, that was, as I said, the only move here for Gukesh to keep a winning game. Then after f5, then you have g4. If you try here f4, then of course we simply step back and then we take the pawn. If you take f takes g4, h takes g4, we can finally grab the knight. And okay, maybe there are some problems here for white in the game, especially on light scores in front of the king, but this is, I think, completely winning here for Gukesh. So Gukesh should have played here rook to d1, covering his d3 square. He played rook to c2, which is a bad move. White is again slightly better here. It's not like Gukesh is losing the game because of this move, but he had a great chance to, I think, already destroy here black's position. So Rauf Mamedov goes with h6, and now again you should try here king to h2. You should try again this g4 move. Probably again f5 would happen, but black which is pretty solid because of this bad move by white, the move rook to c2. But now after move h4 that Gukesh actually played, again the game is equal, nothing dramatic can happen, and here black can finally go into this f5 line. But because now it's a different story, if you take your en passant knight to f6, then you can pick up this one. Probably you get pinned, but then knight takes c5. It's just a complicated line that both players, I think, didn't see because they were really low on clock. Now rook takes e3. Look at this. This was now the only way here for Rauf Mamedov to keep any chances in the game. And when the rook is coming now on the second rank, I think this is a completely drawish position. White needs to lose an extra tempo here. Black will eventually get this f2 pawn. So in my opinion, nothing gained here also for white. So you see f5 again here, the only defensive idea for Rauf Mamedov, but unfortunately for him, with huge time pressure, he played now to move king to h8, which is now a huge mistake in the game here. Finally b4 by Gukesh, which of course deflects now the knight from the attack here. We have always seen there is always the problem of the knight, and also in this line that we have seen previously, this stockfish tactical line, the knight was also a protector of the queen on b7, and suddenly after knight to a4, now suddenly white is much better. Gukesh of course steps back here with the bishop. Rauf Mamedov continues with the pressure against the knight, but now rook to d1. Everything is compact here, everything is glued together around the square d4, and now Rauf Mamedov finally plays the move f5, but it's simply not working anymore. It's a completely different position now. As we mentioned, the knight is far away from the action, the knight is out of game. E takes f6 finally by Gukesh, knight to f6, and now queen takes e6. And what should you do? Here I have to really praise also Gukesh play in faster time formats because he was really low on clock and he calculated this position in an epic way with only a couple of seconds on the clock. Of course, you get the 30 seconds increment, but he calculated this really like the great tactician Tal here. He found really beautiful ideas, because after queen to e6, you cannot pick up this one. On d4, that's the issue, because after rook to d4, rook takes d4, bishop to d4, maybe you're trying to do something like this, then you lose the battle on the back rank, and that's the issue. Now the queen is coming, you're trying something like this, and in this sequence with this endangered king on h7, you can resign, I think, after a couple more moves. So that's why after queen to e6, Rauf Mamedov tried rook to d6, queen to b3. We have now rook to d5. Again, Rauf Mamedov doesn't want to take anything here around the square d4, because it's not maybe the same position, but a similar line where you get attacked, and now in a potential sequence you have to cover here with knight to e4. You cannot play g6, of course, because of rook to c7. You would be pretty much forced to play knight to e4. Rook to e4 is of course not working because of bishop takes f6 and then queen to e4. So in the potential line, knight to e4, king to g2, you're trying to do something like this, h5, queen to d5, and now you pick up this one, and after f3 the game is over. Maybe you can just survive this game by going into this line, but once this pawn is taken, with this pawn majority, with this 2 versus 1 situation on this side of the board and 3 versus 2 on this side of the board, the rook should be much better, and the knights of course don't like to play against these stretch positions when the pawns are on both sides. So here it was the correct choice by Rauf Mamedov to not take here the piece on d4. That's why for queen to b3, Rauf Mamedov kept it somehow compact here with rook to d5, rook to c6 by Gukesh, queen to d7. There is now maybe a threat to pick up here this one and pick up the rook on c6, but now after queen to c2, again, you cannot play this line, bishop to d4, then rook to d4. We have seen again, it's simply not working now. Bishop to d4 is working here for white. The queen is now in front of the rook, so obviously you're not going to give up, of course, the queen here for minor piece. So that's why for queen to c2, queen to g4 here by Rauf Mamedov, and here Gukesh had an amazing opportunity with the move rook to e1, and I think the game would be over after a couple more moves, because now, for instance, bishop to d4, knight to d4 leads again into this line, in which Gukesh, I think, would simply destroy here black's camp. You're trying g takes f6. Now we pick up this one. Look at this. The queen is coming. Now we pick up this one, and the king is naked here. The knight is too far away from the game. In one moment, maybe rook to e4, rook to g4 could work, and white is winning the game for sure. So rook to e1 here in this position, the best move for white. Here Gukesh tried rook to d3, which is maybe not the optimal choice, but still white is much better. You see also on the right here the evaluation bar. Every move is basically working here for white, so Rauf Mamedov's position is simply too stretched. He has an endangered king. His knight is now far away from the action, and he tried rook to e8. We have now queen to d2, but again Gukesh had here a beautiful opportunity with rook to f6. Now under time pressure, he didn't see now finally the best moves. Look at this, g takes f6. Now you play queen to c6. The rook is hanging, and you have to protect your f6 pawn, so in one moment you lose probably this one. It will be, of course, game over after a couple more moves. So rook to f6, really an interesting idea here for Gukesh instead of queen to d2. But okay, the battle continues. Knight to e4 here by Rauf Mamedov. Queen to e1, interesting choice here by Gukesh, because after knight to f6, that maybe black could play. Now you could maybe protect everything with rook to e3. That was Gukesh's defensive idea, although maybe Gukesh didn't play the optimal moves, but he found at least one way how to win this game with the move rook to e3, for instance. Again, white is much better. Queen to e1, we have queen to d7 with the threat of bishop to d4 and then picking up the rook. But now Gukesh found a beautiful idea, and that's, I think, even the best move of this game. Here Gukesh plays rook to e3, allows here bishop to d4. We have knight takes d4, rook takes d4, but now rook takes h6. This is the way to go. If you play g takes h6, then rook to e4 wins the game. Look at this. This is simply too much pressure. Now the Dashko bishop becomes a monster in this game, and after a couple more moves here, black could resign. So after rook to h6, we have now rook to g8, and now comes a very important moment of the game. Gukesh takes, bishop takes d4, and we are reaching now the move 40, in which again the players reach 30 minutes on the clock, which is now very important for Gukesh. He was about 2-3 seconds here only on the clock after bishop to d4, queen to d4. Again here white is much better, and we have reached now the time control. After queen takes d4, here Gukesh has the amazing idea to win the game with rook to g6. That's now the only way here to make any progress. You keep the pin here on the e file, and you're trying to include the rook into the game in a potential line. Rook from a to c3. You continue like this. Maybe you can lose this pawn, but now you play f3. Maybe after queen to d4 here, you can step back. You can, of course, get out of this mess in one moment. We'll pick up the piece. Still, it's a complicated game to play because white will have the also endangered king. Maybe you could lose also the pawn on a2. But here, I would say in top GM level, this should be really winning for white. But instead of this move rook to g6, Gukesh makes now a mistake. Rook takes a6, and suddenly the game is pretty equal again. Rauf Mamedov plays knight from a to c3. Gukesh attacks further the piece, but now here Rauf Mamedov gets out of this mess on the e file and connects now everything here. And again, this should be, as I said, really an equal game. Rook to f3, we have queen takes b4. Gukesh loses another pawn. Rook to b3, queen to c4, and now Gukesh gets out of this potential mess here on this diagonal, simply secures the king further. b4, rook to f4 puts more pressure here against the knight on e4. Rook to e8. Again, Rauf Mamedov goes on the e finally now there are several tactics that are possible. Maybe here, if you don't play carefully here with the white pieces, you could be endangered also through the activity by the rook on the e file, and that's exactly what happened here. Gukesh messes up his game with the move rook to g4. This is not good because first of all, what you should do, you simply secure the second rank. You can of course also compete. You're threatening again the move f3. At least you're keeping your pieces glued together and more compact. But after rook to g4, here Rauf Mamedov had the immediate chance to win the game actually with an amazing queen to c6. But again, I want to point you out, both players spent really enough time, although they gained additional 30 minutes on the clock. Here queen to c6 had to be Rauf Mamedov's move, and there's not so much that can be done. You can maybe pick up the pawn on b4, but now there is a stunning knight takes f2. This is the way to go. If you play queen takes f2, then a rook to e2 wins simply the piece. You can just prolong the game maybe with the move rook to c4, but now look at this, the queen gets connected to the rook. You're trying maybe queen takes f2, but now, as I said, in the potential sequence, here obviously black is much better. Here white doesn't have so many great chances, so still white is continuing the game with both of these rooks, but of course also white lost a minor piece in between. So in this endgame, I would say white is completely losing. But here, instead of this move queen to c6, Rauf Mamedov played queen to c5, attacked now the pawn on f2. We have now rook to f4 by Gukesh. We have queen to c4, and again this should be pretty equal game after rook to f3, knight to f6, queen to d2, rook to e2, queen to d8 check, king to h7, and again a critical moment of the game. Again, I would say here, really an epic game they played with many, of course, inaccuracies, mistakes on brothers, but it's understandable because they were really low on clock. And in order to survive this, in order to survive here black's attack, Gukesh should have simply sacrificed the rook for the exchange, and after g takes f6, queen to f6, okay, you are down in material. Maybe also this pawn can be taken, but it's a different story. Black's king is completely naked, and black has to force drawish line here out of this, so it's also completely an equal game for both sides. But instead of this move, rook takes f6, Gukesh played queen to d3, allowed here again Rauf Mamedov to get back into the game. Now black is again much better. Rauf took, of course. We have rook takes d3, and now another critical moment of the game here. Rauf should have simply taken this pawn on f2. Instead of this move rook takes f2, he took actually the pawn on a2. Look at this, after rook to f2, the winning line for black is after king to g1, you play knight to g4, and in one moment white is pretty much forced to give up now the rook here for the exchange. Still a complicated game to play, but now it's a different story. We can of course pick up this one with the 2 versus 1 and the knight here. Black should be winning. I'm not sure how this game would have ended because still, as I said, it's complicated to win even these games with the black pieces, but this was Rauf Mamedov's way to go. Here, instead of this move rook takes f2, Rauf Mamedov took the pawn on a2, and finally Gukesh can back into the game after rook to f3, knight to e4. Gukesh now finally connects everything here around the square f2, and then after a couple more moves, Gukesh gave up now the exchange here, but it's a different story now. We have a 3 versus 1 against the knight, and now it's a completely drawish endgame. We have now rook to c2. Gukesh, of course, gets the pieces back into the game, delivers a couple of checks, and now after rook to f4 and rook to f3, rook takes f3. In this particular position, both players agreed to a draw. So, what to say? Huge an important game, I would say, for Gukesh. Huge chance he had here to become maybe the world's youngest grandmaster of all times, to reach 2800 ratings. Let's see now the current standings of the rating list. So here Gukesh has lost now 2 points against Rauf Mamedov, but again, he's only 5 points far away from reaching 2,800 rating points, which is really, really crazy. In my opinion, really, really still he has chances, because still 4 rounds have to be played. He needs basically a big win, maybe against 2,700 rated player, then he'll get about 4 or 5 points, and he could maybe become the world's youngest grandmaster to reach these epic ratings. Unfortunately, it didn't work for him today, but we have to also give credit here to Rauf Mamedov. He put off an amazing fight, incredible fight. He fought really in a losing position. He found the optimal ideas, then messed up basically his game. He could have also won the game, so it was an epic game that could have slipped on both sides. So incredible performance by these two top grandmasters. So we'll follow, of course, Gukesh's path to become maybe the world's youngest grandmaster of all times. As I said, it didn't work today, but I think if Gukesh continues to play the game like this, he has still great chances. And we have to also praise Gukesh. We know that he will play now in next month his World Chess Championship match against England, and still playing chess. So he's not like, I'm just going to prepare for the World Chess Championship match. He is competing in top GM level, and has lost not 2 points, but nothing lost. He still have chances to really write new chess history. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. Really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas we have seen in this game for sure. If you want to see some other content here on my YouTube chess channel, check out our Comta chess games, and also our Comta chess games played by computers, where we analyze some beautiful AI games. And if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.